He didn't know how old he was. She said he thought he might be 117. Nobody knows for a fact, but they do know the last veteran of this war to go was a Confederate named Walter Williams. And what would he say to people like this, thus assembled?
Last man standing wins.
We are a formally traveling show. We did this performance for 15 years all across the United States. We performed in museums and colleges and big shopping centers and stuff from coast to coast as a two-man play. We had a portable set that we carried around. 15 years of that mess, dragging a cannon around too. We actually pulled a full-scale cannon around with us. In 2005, late that year, we discovered that we really wanted to get off the road, and the only way to do that, we found out, was possibly a dinner theater to combine food with the performance. And it wasn't a good 2 weeks after that, we discovered an old church was for sale in Whitwell, referred to locally as Whitwell. Well, we went down and bought the church from the folks. They had built another building down the road, so they left us this old church. We spent months converting it into what it is today. So our guests, when they walk in that front door, are literally stepping back into 1864.
Hello, welcome to Buttonwillow Civil War Dinner Theater.
Hey, how are you? I'm Steve Gibson. Welcome to Buttonwillow. Come on back into 1864. The decor, the portraits, everything around us, all the wait staff, they're all in period costume. They're in period clothes, so that we make you feel like you're back. By combining the food with the show, then we open it up for all of these tour buses, which is where most of our businesses come from. What we did not know at that time was that the churches were going to find out about us. We did not know we were Christian-based until somebody told us about it. We just go about our business like we think we're supposed to. We do a blessing before the meal, which kind of throws people a little bit, and we figure, well, if you don't want to do a blessing, that's okay, but we're going to, and most people do. But time after time, people would come up and say, thank you for doing that blessing, and we said, well, it's okay, it's not a big deal. So after that, we began to say, look, if the churches are interested in this, and they're always looking for something that's clean, entertaining, pro-America, and that's what we do. And so one church told the other church and told another church. I think at our last count, when we did a tally, we've done over 800 churches here in 10 years. We now have been here since 2006, and we go all week. We're open year-round. The only day that we don't work, that we're closed, is Saturday. It's our Sabbath. So we're open Sunday through Friday, and we go lunch shows as well as supper. We invite groups to come in. We have seen everybody from the Boy Scouts to the Red Hat Societies. And it's really funny. When the Red Hat Societies leave, we have to go out in the parking lot and pick up all the red boa feathers from off the parking lot. Car clubs, motorcycle clubs, people like to just travel and go see things. Instead of them going all the way up to Pigeon Forge, we just say, look, we're right over here in the Sequatchie Valley, which is a whole 40 minutes from downtown Chattanooga. We're technically about 18 minutes or less far further away than Rock City is from downtown. That's it. It's about 18 minutes or so. So most people in Chattanooga don't know much about this area because they think we're out in the hinterlands and stuff, which is funny. But this is the most gorgeous valley on the planet. And so now we've been banging away. This is our 10th year here. So when our guests arrive, they're met in the front room. We took the old fellowship hall and turned it into a kind of a museum gift shop. There's lots of things up there on the walls that are original to the period. People can come in and look at it and just have fun looking. And we sell a lot of antique jewelry and things like that for the little ladies that want to come in. They always have to buy something. And we focus most of the merchandise on period items, period reproduction items that they would be interested in. We sit them down to a meal. We serve Confederate White House recipes. What makes this really neat is that on the road, like we were for 15 years, we were met by curators and directors of various museums who found out our interest in this was a lot deeper than just your common, ordinary tourist. So people offered us things, free things, because they wanted to share. You know, when you get somebody who's interested in the same thing you are, you really want to give them some good stuff. So we got a hold of a lot of Jefferson Davis's wife's recipes. Verena Howell Davis. She was a brilliant woman. She could have been the president of the Confederacy had she not been wearing a dress. In the 1800s, women weren't allowed in public politics above and beyond the suffragette movement, which kind of made their own way around anyway. But Verena kept records, and the lady that runs the Confederate White House in Montgomery gave us a bunch of her recipes. And so we served those at our dinner theater. The menu consists of a Savannah baked chicken, a Louisiana Bayou cornbread stuffing, Charleston cut green beans, South Carolina sweet carrots, which are made with raw sugar and Alabama sorghum molasses, Low Country blackberry cobbler, and buttermilk pan biscuit. The only thing that we serve that is not proper to this period, and we tell everybody about it during our pre-show talk, is iced tea. Iced tea only goes back to 1904, and it was introduced at the St. Louis World's Fair. It was one of the big introductions that happened. It was also at that World's Fair in 1904 that the ice cream cone was invented quite by accident. And so there's some cool things that came out of that. So we serve that food. We let them eat in peace. We play some period music in the background. And then once they're finished eating, we've served them dessert and their coffee. We give them a chance to take a break. We invite the ladies who dip, and some still do, to go out into the front yard and spit away from the church if they don't mind, because we try to keep the place clean. And then we bring them back in and we do the show. And the play itself, I wrote and have been writing this play since I was probably 5. It's called Granddaddy's Watch. And it's a story of two brothers from eastern Tennessee trying to protect their homeland in their own way. Eastern Tennessee was in real life mostly Union. And the reason that it was because of the connection that happened during the Revolutionary War. And during the late 1700s, the white communities were settled mostly eastern Tennessee. And a lot of those fellows, including John Sevier, got involved in that Revolutionary War. So by the time you got to the Civil War era generations, they had a connection to their granddaddies who had fought the English to make us the United States. So they weren't interested in 1860 of breaking up a country that their granddaddies almost got killed to make. What Southerners have to understand is that before there was Confederate blood, there was Revolutionary War blood in eastern Tennessee. So my character that I play the bad boy Unionist up on stage. I can't believe that my idiot brother who shows up is trying to bring medicine up to our cousins, Confederate cousins across the way. And we argue like two 8-year-olds. So I wrote the show to be very funny. It's got dramatic moments in it, of course, but it's like a Jerry Lewis, Dean Martin kind of an interplay between the two characters. He takes the Confederate side, East Tennessee, and I take the Union side, East Tennessee. So it throws people off when they first come in. We greet them with Dixie and Jefferson Davis and all of the things that we make that happen. But and then I walk out just before the show dressed in a federal uniform, and I let them know. I say, look, if y'all think for a moment that everybody in the South was a Confederate, then we know that everybody in Alabama is an Auburn fan and everybody in Tennessee is a Vanderbilt fan. It just doesn't happen. We're not all Democrats in the South. We're not all Republicans in the South. And neither were we all Confederates or Unionists in the South. So the storyline itself is fictional. What happens in the play is fictional. But everything that I wrote in this play comes out of diaries, letters, memoirs, and military reports. I have spent hours and hours at the National Archive in Washington, as well as state archives, looking up the information that's in this show. I tell people, look, I don't read the internet. The last thing I do is go to the public library, and I don't read public school books. They've been edited so severely that our kids aren't getting any real history at all in school. They're getting a cleaned up version. In my book that I've written that's here at the gift shop, it's called God Save the South. There's a line in it which I wish I could claim it, but I think everything that I do and say comes from God, and I'm just sort of a conduit. But he gave me a great line one day, and he said, look, history by consensus is called fiction. And that's what we have in this country. All of our school books have been voted on by a committee who decided what they were going to put in that book and what they weren't. So the point that we're trying to make in our show is that you can tell a bigger misdirected lie by not telling all of the story than you can just making up something. And that's what's been going on in our history for years. They just left stuff out. So in that 3 hours or so that people are at our place, we will convey to them things they have never heard in their lives. We've got history teachers that come to see us who have taught for 40 years who haven't heard half of what we've been talking about. So the storyline again is the two brothers. Everything in it is real stuff. What we try to do though is when you're discussing history, you've got to combine geology, anthropology, and sociology. It all has to be intermixed to make it make sense. It's not the fact that things happened, it's why they happened, which fascinates me, and that's how we wrote the show. So when I wrote the show, I wrote it from their perspective. These two characters are talking to our audience from the 1860s, and some of it is rather brusque. We don't use any language that'll throw people off, but the attitudes are there. I play a 19th century male, which really gets the ladies in the audience going, because that character in 1860 wouldn't deal with women the way they are today. It's just a whole different world. And that's part of the fun. Now, our theater allows you to do something nobody else in the world does. And I've looked this up and I've never found anybody else that'll do this. Theater etiquette in this time period was also different from today. And so as part of our teaching process, without being obvious about what we're doing, we let the audience play the part of their ancestors. So they have this opportunity. I tell people at the pre-show show that in our time period, if somebody on stage said something that the audience did not like, audience members were known to start yelling boo. And I say, you can do that. You are allowed to do that. It's perfectly okay. And if we said something on stage that the audience liked, audience members were known to start yelling amen, and it turned into a church rally. So I tell the audience, you can amen or boo us the entire show. Ain't gonna throw us off. We have been at this longer than you have, so we know what we're doing. And I said, you don't want to overdo it because you'll look stupid, but if you do it right, it is funny. Some groups really get into it. Some groups don't do much at all. You get different kinds of folks from different churches and areas that react different ways. But these two characters are so provocative in what they're saying that you got to, at some point, let go in the audience with an amen or a boo, because the lines are so pointed. And that just makes the rest of the audience laugh, especially if I'm up there making fun of the suffragette movement in the 1860s. Little old ladies, they defended in the audience, of course, but the men out there, they're against the whole thing. So you got the men and the women in the show, in the audience, playing against each other. And I'm just wondering how many of them walk home, but it makes it fun. So when people leave our place, they don't know whether or not they should be laughing or crying, because it affects them.
When you get home, I want you to get Mama off to the side. I want you to tell Mama something for me, please. You tell Mama that I graduated from West Point all those years ago. And I put this uniform on for the first time. If I had known at that moment that I'd still be wearing this uniform. And shooting at the people over there that I love.
They get so tied up in the storyline, and it's a very sad but poignant ending that makes you just hurt. And so the two characters love each other, but they just don't get along in their politics, but they know they got to get through it in any event.